It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Oh, wow!
An unprovoked war in Europe is now underway.
I don't know what you need 1,000. I mean, one bottle of baby oil goes a long way.
All right. What's going on, guys? How are y'all doing? So, um, gotta apologize for last episode. Let me just get a couple things ready to go. Okay, gotta apologize for last episode. It was my first time. I said, bear with me. Found that the mic was in mono and it just wasn't working. So we got a new mic, as well as some decorations in the background. It's not set up completely yet. It's just, as you can see, all crooked and stuff. But things are coming along. Slowly but surely, things are coming along. With that, I also fixed the audio when it came to the video, so apologies. Now, welcome to Let's Be Rational. This is episode 2. Yeah, we got an interesting week. This is why I started this. Like, there's always something. Always something. So, without further ado, let's jump into the important stuff, and then we'll get into the fun stuff at the end of the episode. So, let's see what we have first here. Let's talk about. Let's just review the markets. All right, here we are. So, SPY, aka SPY. All-time highs within the range, at least. And you know, I imagine this to probably range for a little bit more. Yeah, probably from 620 to 6. It'll probably touch 630. That $10 range all the way until August. Something always happens in August, like historically. I think, what was it last time? I think last year was Taiwan, or maybe it was Japan. No, it was the Euro trade, or not the Euro trade. The yen. I think that's Japanese currency. Anyways, it was their carry trade, and them changing policy that caused everything to drop. If I remember correctly, that was a good time to buy. So once we get some opportunities, we'll have some more to talk about. But as of right now, if you're got in the market since before July, you're doing good. So nothing really to cover there. I don't recommend buying anything. Just wait till August. In a couple weeks, you can have your moment. Just stack some cash. Of course, it was crypto week, which we'll get into in a little bit. So Bitcoin it's in that range. Remember what I said last week? What was it, Sunday? Sunday I said don't buy here. It's at the all-time highs. Shot up again. But look at this. What did it end up doing? It ended up touching and coming back to, ooh, looks like we did get that 15. I said 15 or 16. Best case is it came down here to the 11. Never did that. And here we are within this range. So as for crypto, I wouldn't do too much. Of course, ETH is going crazy right now. And then crypto week boosted all of this. There might be some good trades in some altcoins to look into, but nothing I'm going to cover here on the show. What you need to know is right now, yeah, I don't need to see that chart. Yeah, isn't too much to do. Ain't too much to worry about right now. So when it comes to the market, we're kind of at highs. I would personally stack some cash and wait for the next opportunity, because it's coming. It always is. It never seems like it does, but it's always coming. So now let's jump in to the headlines. We know where the markets stand. Let's see what we got. Of course, Nvidia had an incredible week, and it was partly because of this right here. The US essentially reversed its ban, allowing it to sell those chips to China that it had wanted to, or that it specifically made to produce. So now that that's being done, and it was probably being done on the backside as well, I think this is good as a nation. Like it's going to happen regardless. The question is AI going to be built on a US stack where it's US companies that have the capabilities like Nvidia, OpenAI, um, versus China where they have DeepSeek? Is it going to be built on a US stack or a Chinese stack? And you want to have a US stack. Personally, at least I do. So that's great. With this, Nvidia had a $4 trillion market cap. That is just absolutely insane. And things are going very, very well for them. So if you have SPY or just Nvidia directly or any kind of semiconductor ETF like SMH, you're doing incredible right now. As for the everyday Americans, what you need to know is this probably means that things are starting to work their way out when it comes to US and China. Either that or the administration realized, oh, we messed up. But I imagine with this, with TikTok and the trade deal, I imagine this is all being talked about in the same conversation of how are we going to negotiate with this administration? How's this administration plan to deal with China? So, yeah, I think for the time being, we are good, and there is no need to worry about Nvidia. Of course, if you have any kind of investment, you probably have exposure to this company and benefited. It's going to impact any kind of semiconductor, any kind of AI companies going forward, and it will increase the odds of AI being built on a US stack versus a China stack. So that is Nvidia. What else do we have? Let's jump on over to Crypto Week. Crypto Week, Crypto Week, Crypto Week. Actually, before we even get into Crypto Week, let's talk about the Trump administration. And specifically, Ukraine. So, last week, as you know, we talked about how Ukraine and Russia, they're still going. And of course, this was Trump's promise to have done and completed way before even being president. And here we are in July, over 6 months. Well, actually, 6 months to the day. It's the 20th. And I'm pretty sure Inauguration Day this year was on the 20th of January. No progress there. So I don't know what his leverage point was, but clearly it didn't work. Now, the Hill doesn't think this will work at all. I'm kind of with them on this. I don't think Trump and his administration have the sway that they thought they did when it came to this conflict and how to deal with it. So with that, yeah, I think this is over. I don't think peace will come unless they decide to mutually agree and do something about it. And it'll probably come after some kind of catastrophe. It'll be a terrible, terrible, worse than it already is, attack. And one side will cave. That's just how war goes. And that's how this will probably end up. Okay. Let's talk about this budget cut. This is part of... Yeah. So this was foreign aid and public broadcasting. $9 billion. As you can see here, this is... There are two ways this administration... It's kind of counterproductive. They think they can, as the Republican Party oftenly does, think they can grow their way out of things and then cut spending at the same time while spending. So, yeah, this is this is kind of just another nothing burger. It's what we'll have to see is what they define as foreign aid and who gets cut from public broadcasting. If it's things like, yeah, like PBS, if it's things like PBS, I used to grow up watching that. If it's things like that that gets cut, yeah, this is expected. If you were paying attention to them and their policies, you should have known this was coming, as well as a bunch of other cuts. I mean, he ran on that in his whole campaign. So let's see what else we got. I'm getting sick and tired of talking about them. So we're not going to. We're going to talk about Crypto Week. And I got some good things for Crypto Week. All right. So Crypto Week, that was last week. Well, technically this week as it is Sunday. And I have a very good clip from Prop G Markets. It's an incredible podcast. They are very good at what they do. And we're going to take a look at something that they had talked about, kind of breaking down the bills in an interview they did. I'm going to give my take. I agree with some of the stance. I don't. We'll see where we differ. But check these guys out here. Prop G down here. Fantastic podcast to listen to. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Make sure I get the audio right this time.
These do in many ways is take apart regulatory regimes that have been in place for a long time to protect consumers, investors, things like that. So, for example, there's been banking regulation for a long time that says that only banks can accept deposits. But the Genius Act says that you don't have to be a bank to issue a stablecoin, which is the functional equivalent of a deposit. The Genius Act also takes apart the separation between what we had banking and commerce. So it used to be that Walmart could now open a bank, but Walmart will be allowed to issue a stablecoin. And more to the point, so will Meta, so will X. So we're taking apart protections that I think have stood us in good stead for a long time. Similarly, the clarity.
Okay, so she's right on this aspect. Stable coins are going to kind of be murky waters for a little bit because it does allow a company to essentially operate as a bank without following typical banking rules and regulations, because now you get to use the stable coin. I got the Walmart stable coin, so you can spend USD using that. The gift cards might come in that. Essentially, she's right. This gray area, in the foreseeable future, you're going to see confusion. And for the average individual, if you're being marketed stable coins or anything crypto, you should always kind of just be hesitant. And this is somebody that dabbles in the crypto space. Man, it's murky waters, to say the least. But she makes a good point. Let's talk about the Clarity Act. Let's see what she says here.
Clarity Act, the goal here is to basically make a big hole in the securities laws so that the crypto industry doesn't have to comply with the securities laws. But the problem with that is not only is it problematic for the crypto industry to enshrine the fact that they can issue things to investors without registering with the SEC, without having to disclose financials, without having the panoply of investor protections that the SEC provides. It creates this loophole basically on the basis of whether you use a blockchain or not. So there's an opportunity there for vast swathes of the financial system, the traditional financial system, to migrate into this new regime by using a blockchain. And that is going to be highly problematic for investors, even if they aren't investing in crypto. The Anti-CBDC Act is...
Okay, so what she's saying there about the Clarity Act, you can tell she very much favors traditional finance and how it works, and I understand that completely. but she's absolutely right in regards to the vagueness of the Clarity Act, and that's kind of by design. They're essentially making the scope wide as they can. And I think they're doing this for the fact that if the scope is wide, we can always narrow it. But we've seen with the past administration and the previous SEC chair, Gary Gensler, with that guy, what we've seen is that when the scope is very narrow, it's hard to operate legally. So they're essentially going to make this very wide, overcasting, generic, legal stamp for cryptocurrencies. And that will open up some problems, but that will also allow crypto to continue. So, yeah, with that, it's not as bad as she makes it out to be, but you will notice that there are going to be two spaces. One's that operates well, as crypto was probably going to take a natural trend that direction, and then the negative side. Just like there's scams with the toll tags, right? You're going to see scams with crypto. That's just people, unfortunately. But anyways, let's move on.
Is something that I think has gotten a lot less attention. It basically sort of wants to rule out the possibility of the Federal Reserve introducing its own central bank digital currency on some kind of blockchain. The thing to be really...
So she's right, and this is a big thing, right? You don't want... Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. That's been going on the entire time. You don't want a central bank digital currency because that is the exact opposite for something of Bitcoin and how it was supposed to be introduced. It will give crazy restrictions to your money. Like if you ever heard those dystopian scenarios where you can only spend your money on certain things, or maybe at certain times, or certain amounts, or things get deducted. With crypto, you can put those in place, right? So if you have a CBDC, a central bank, why am I stumbling on my words? CBDC, central bank digital currency, CBDC. Okay, sorry. If you have a CBDC, essentially what you have there is numbers on a screen like you typically see, but you have full control of those numbers on the screen. And so by essentially saying, hey, you can't have this, you're trying to stop for the dystopian future. So I see her concern. She'll probably go into more of this, and we'll see what it will mean here.
Really careful about with this legislation is, depending on its final form, it could actually hobble the Federal Reserve in other ways if it restricts them from engaging in technological improvements and things like that.
How much of a leg up do these regulations actually offer the crypto industry?
So it's a good question. So Bitcoin is, in many respects, a Ponzi-like asset. It has nothing behind it. Its value only comes...
That's funny. She's correct, so to speak. Bitcoin itself has no intrinsic value, but neither did gold, except for the properties that make Bitcoin attractive. Outside of the physical property that it has some utility, right? Bitcoin doesn't, of course, have a physical property because it is digital. But the dollar is a Ponzi scheme. As soon as that thing went off the gold standard and you can print it as much as you want to control inflation, and then you use CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to measure inflation, but then you change the basket of good daily, like the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. But the Ponzi scheme we've all bought into. Money is the game. Who said this? I think it was Tristan. Tate. Money is the game we all play by default. You don't have a choice. And so everybody will have to play this game in order to work in a society, to operate in a society. And the game we've chosen to play is, at least for Americans, is the United States dollar. And the world has essentially agreed to play with this game too, and play by the rules because it is the world reserve currency. But let's be clear, there is nothing backing the United States dollar. Nothing. And it can be printed at will. So she's right, but to be honest, most money is a Ponzi scheme. It only works because people bought into it. Like back in ancient times when everybody wanted to use seashells or coins, those were only deemed to work because a government decided that this was the game everybody was going to play. And so that's the game that everybody did. So, yeah, I mean, to her credit, she's trying to call a spade, but we operate in a Ponzi system.
From being able to attract more investment. And the name of the game lately has been trying to encourage institutional investment to get sort of the biggest investors to play in this space. But part of the appeal has been that these assets are not regulated and others are. Mm-hmm. So the underlying block.
Yes. Institutional investors have been taking on to Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin. Why? Because of the returns of Bitcoin. It has withstood several economic depressions and a lot of legal legislation, and it is still standing. And on top of that, it is beating most of their returns. There is a reason they want to participate in this game as well. And it's not just to avoid loopholes. They can do that enough. They work in traditional finance. They have the tax code. They lobby people to keep the tax code the way it is or change it when they need to. Like, come on. But let's let her continue.
Is pretty clunky, doesn't scale well. You know, if that was your only advantage, you wouldn't be doing well as a business if the blockchain technology was your only competitive edge. But what has happened is by using this blockchain, a lot of people have gotten away with not complying with the rules that everybody else has to comply with. And that is creating a competitive edge. So one of the things I've been
Okay, I don't know what she's insinuating there. And what are these rules that people are skirting? I wish she would have given a little bit more context because she's clearly insinuating, you know, something had happened on large scale, but not really diving into it. And I think she's kind of just hinting at the underground ethos of crypto. The first people that really kind of adopted it and used it practically were criminals. Why? Because it is hard money that you can use for the practical reasons. They took to it. The government couldn't seize it. Everything that makes Bitcoin decentralized and amazing also makes it amazing to engage in criminal activities because of how it operates. The government can't really mess with it like they can with your bank. They can make a call. They can ask for these records. Can't do that with crypto. You can, you know, dive into the blockchain and do a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's not as easy. So, interesting that she was insinuating without giving context, but I can see the hesitation, so to speak. All right.
I'm wondering about is with these loopholes that these pieces of legislation are opening up that aren't just for the crypto industry, but will attract people from other parts of finance as well. will that actually be counterproductive for crypto? In other words, if you can get any stock without having to comply with the securities laws, does Bitcoin retain its appeal? And so
Okay. Now I see where she's going with this. Um, Essentially, what she's saying here is Robinhood said they were going to make OpenAI shares public for everyone through tokenization. Hey, we own this many shares of OpenAI, and since we own these shares of OpenAI, ChatGPT, we'll tokenize them. So as our shares go up, if you buy a token of these shares, your shares go up. Now, the problem with that is kind of what she's hinting at here. It's great in theory, right? Essentially, what Robinhood is trying to do is it is trying to take those great companies that are in the public sector that are not public or not looking to go public anytime soon and trying to give retailers access to it, which I commend them for. But this is where you're going to get the hiccups, right? This is where you're going to encounter problems. You have companies that it's not what I was trying to do. Okay. Let me do it over here. I need y'all looking at everything. Come on now. OpenAI stock. Okay. So essentially, the problem with that is OpenAI responded and said, "Yo, hold up. We didn't say that they can use these stocks like this. Matter of fact, this tokenization we don't endorse. We have nothing to do with." They're essentially taking a smart legal approach, saying, "Yo, hold up. Um, that's not something that we said we were going to agree with, comply with, or let them do." They own shares, absolutely, but this token is not connected to those shares, and they're right, because with this you have to rely on Robinhood and their honesty, which is really tough for a company just in general. You have to rely on them to be an honest, reputable company. And if you know anything about the pressure that Robinhood faced uh, back with the GameStop era, then you should see why this could be a problem. Is that you essentially have to take their word for it. You have to assume that the ratio from tokenization to the stocks is correct, that the number that you see on screen is correct with what's going on. There's no manipulation. There's a lot of room for error and faults and problems. Now, let me see their exact response. Here we go. Okay. Here we are. These OpenAI tokens are not OpenAI equity, and they're correct. You don't technically own them. They're just linked. And they're only linked through Robinhood. Let's be clear. I think this is great. And I think this is something they should be doing. But I think this is in the very beginnings. And it's going to take some trial and error to figure out how to put some legality behind these tokens. Because if you can't make it punishable by law for any kind of manipulation or any kind of fraud, you're going to get it. So I'll continue. We do not partner with Robinhood. We're not involved in this and do not endorse it. Any transfers of OpenAI equity require our approval. We did not approve any transfer. Please be careful. They're essentially saying, hey, we didn't hear about this. We didn't know about this. We don't believe in this. And that makes sense from their perspective. I totally see why they would do that. And like I said, this is going to be interesting. It's something we have to keep our eye on because this is just a start, but somebody had to do it first so we can get rules to how these are going to work. So I commend them, Robinhood, for doing it. I hope they're going to be really honest and transparent with it. If they can do that, then this is going to move in the right direction. If they can't, her concerns are going to be very valid. But I digress. That's what she was insinuating. Let's get back to her argument.
So I wonder if this might end up in the long run being counterproductive for the crypto industry.
Well, Hillary makes an important point here, and I'm
Realized I didn't have the screen on there for the last point, but great podcast. Go check them out. They're awesome. So that is crypto week, and these bills did get signed. They are into effect. I believe all of them got signed. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. This is kind of just like the start to the gun in a race in hurdles, essentially. And we're going to see how many times they hit the hurdles, or are they just going to go clean over it. This is exactly what's happening right here. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's get into the fun stuff now, shall we? Let's get into some culture and some tech. Oh man, y'all should have known this one was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, of course I get an ad now. Astronmer CEO Andy was at a Coldplay concert, and they just happened to catch him on the kiss cam, and it wasn't with his wife. Woo! Yeah, the memes have been going crazy on this, and I'm sure y'all have seen those. Yeah, he's screwed. And rightfully so. I mean, here it is. Here's the video. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. And what is going on? She's actually related to the company. Now, I knew nothing of this company before, but this is the company. Astronomer. And they do look like they got some big brand partners. Activision. You play video games, you know Activision. Adobe. You do any kind of editing, you know it. Looks like they got a couple data centers in here. EA, obviously, if you do any gaming. Foot Locker, Ford, like they work with Sonos, they work Marriott, they work with some. They work with some prestigious companies. As you know, or may not, he resigned. Well, first they were both placed on immediate leave, and the response that you guys saw, fake. That was a fake response. But yes, he replaced both of them on immediate leave, and he has resigned. You know, it's like the old saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I don't know what you expected, honestly. Like, let's be that you were untouchable, maybe, that you just weren't going to get affected. Nobody was going to notice. And honestly, I've had this argument. I bet you nobody would have noticed if y'all didn't freak out. It probably would have, maybe a couple people would have cut on, but it wouldn't have been this whole big thing. But since y'all, emotions, I mean, y'all knew y'all was wrong for that. That's how y'all know. So, yeah, you know, her husband, good luck to him. His wife, good luck to her. I wish y'all the best of luck. To them, got what you deserved, unfortunately. It play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Ain't too much to say on that. Man. people don't think. People don't think risk versus reward. If you approached everything like that, what do I get out of this? But what do I risk? Obviously, you want the reward to be greater than the risk. Personally, I don't see how the reward was greater than the risk. I mean, good luck finding a job in the next 6 months. You'll find one eventually because you were a CEO. You got a track record. Somebody will give you a chance. You're not going to get paid as much, but somebody will scoop you up. I don't know about her. I heard she was HR. If she's HR looking for a job, I mean, HR is the one supposed to tell you, I'll be fraternizing with your coworkers. Whoo, what you doing? What? That's what you doing. Yeah. What you need to learn from this, if anything, besides play stupid games, win stupid prizes, is risk versus reward. Is a choice that you make every day, all the time. Is this reward worth the risk? There's always a trade-off. Every choice is a trade-off. All right. All right. Let's get into a good one. Now, I know my family happy about this right here. Uno. Uno is making its way to Las Vegas. If y'all haven't seen the memes of this, they kind of got drowned out after the CEO scandal, but Uno is making it to the tables. It's gonna be crazy. Imagine having your rent on the line. Y'all have seen the memes. Imagine having your rent on the line, getting slapped with a draw 4 after you called Uno. Ooh. I think this is good though. This is the company Mattel is who owns Uno, and they've been having a great run. If you don't know Mattel, Mattel also owns Barbie. Was that last year now? Did Barbie movie come out last year? Oh man, time is flying. Let's see when Barbie came out. The Barbie movie came out. I don't want to buy a Barbie. I want to know when the movie came out. Oh, wow. 2 years ago now. 2 summers ago, Barbie came out. They're having a good run. I mean, yeah, Mattel. What's the stock doing? What is the stock doing? What is there? No. What stocks? I believe it's 2 T's, right? Aha. All right, let's see them. Interesting. What was this? That was 2016. Hold up. Stock's all right. Nothing crazy. It's the 90s. What was this? 2013. What happened in 2013? I wasn't trading then. Anyways, right now this is not something to consider. The price on this, and this is the weekly view, but on the daily view, you can tell it's the same thing. This range right here, it's got to break this and not have one of these false breakouts. And then once it does that, it has to get out of this range and go up. Oh, where's it? So, yeah. If you would have bought the bottom of this range here back in April, I don't know why you would have been looking at. Anyways, not worth it. Not worth your time. Not worth your attention. All right. How long we been talking for? 40 minutes. Yeah, it's time to wrap this thing up. But before we do, let's see what our last topic is. We still got a good one. We got a couple good ones. All right. So, the UK is lowering, it hasn't done it, but it's planning on lowering the voting age to 16. as a critical thinker, the first things that should be coming to your mind is why. Why is it important for them to lower the age to 16? And if I think about it another step, that means their political party, whoever is in office right now, not in office, whoever has the majority right now, believes that they can grab more people in that 2-year difference from 18 to 16. They believe these people will keep them in power. That's my guess, because I don't see a why would you lower the voting age to 16? There's nothing else makes sense except for the fact that I'm trying to get more people that would support me. And so you have to wonder, I don't know much about British politics. Yeah, but you have to believe that they assume. Maybe it's this. Maybe they're just trying to have some congruency, but I doubt it. I believe it is because they are trying to stay in power, and they've done enough research to realize, hey, this younger group likes us. Let's get more of them. All right. What else we got here? Ah, yes. Trump is going after the Wall Street Journal. So I had heard that the Wall Street Journal said it was going to release a story on Trump saying that he's implicated, and that's why the Epstein files are a cover up. Now, yeah, we are going to get into this. So before we do, of course, give me a second. We are definitely going to enter the conspiracies, though. There's no way around it. All of this is hearsay and conspiracy. So without further ado. Yeah, so let's be honest. If there is something on there, this could just be slander. And it's essentially saying that he sent Jeffrey Epstein a letter about sexual activities in a lighthearted manner. And of course, Jeffrey Epstein this got me thinking. They say Epstein was innocent. He killed himself, and he didn't have a book. He didn't have anything. He didn't do any of this. Okay, so if he didn't do any of this, then why do you want to sue him? Because if he didn't do any of this, him saying that shouldn't have any effect. It shouldn't mean anything. Yeah, we all know he didn't do anything, right? That should be your perspective, and the public's, if that is the case. But you want to sue him because, and we're not even talking about the contents of the letter. We're talking about what the action of suing them means. It means that there is obviously something there. Enough that the public, you're seeking damages, right? You're like, no, you can't be saying that. Oh, so what's going on with Epstein? I thought nothing had happened. I thought he was a squeaky clean guy who just managed to kill himself. That's not even talking about the letter. If this letter did exist, apparently it was sent for his 15th birthday. People go, okay, so is Trump implicated? I believe there are those cards are on the table, because Epstein was a New York guy, to my understanding. And he was a prominent banker. And if you're in real estate, you have to work with bankers. You need your mortgages. You need your loans. So Now, to what extent? Obviously, there are photos, there are videos of them two together. To what extent? That's all hearsay. That's all conspiracy. Elon did come out and say, Trump's in it. Trump's in the Epstein files. And then, coincidentally, the Epstein files aren't released. So now is there no way to skirt around their connection? But the crazy thing is you also don't hear the Democratic Party enraged. That shows you how many people are implicated or have some kind of interest in making sure it stays this way, whether it's to keep the leverage on other people, or it's because those people are implicated. But the Democratic Party should be jumping on this. But why are they not? Because guess who was in the suspicions before? Some former blue presidents. Yeah. What do I think? Well, I think whether he did it or not, went to the island or not, him and his photos with him are too much. And there's no going back. Like I talked about last week. You just being associated with them. Excuse me. You just being associated with him. Implicated. Done. Doesn't matter. Toast. Ooh. I hope this story isn't over. And I'm glad to see people not having short-term memory loss going, oh, Trump never said this during the campaign. Yeah, he did. Come on, man. We all know. He said, I will release them. It released the files. All right. I'm rambling. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And that's all we got. We'll be back next week. And yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully, sound-wise, everything was a lot better. Till then, people, peace.